Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We are about to decode one of the most fundamental, absolutely crucial puzzles out there, global energy and its scientific mechanics. We're going to explore where our power actually comes from, how we use it, and exactly what it's going to take to transition into a sustainable future. Let's figure this out together.
Okay, let's dive into this with a massive, macro-level question that really frames the core problem of human civilization's energy demands. How do we live on Earth's income without eroding its capital? It's a profound way to think about our relationship with the planet, right? Kind of like framing our energy use in terms of a giant bank account.
To answer that question, we turn to the concept of sustainable development. Back in 1987, the Brundtland Commission defined this as meeting our present needs without compromising future generations' ability to meet theirs. Going back to our financial analogy for a second, true sustainability means living off the Earth's renewable income, things like daily sunlight or wind, rather than digging into and depleting its ancient natural capital, like buried fossil fuels.
Here's a quick roadmap for our explainer today. We'll start with the science of energy, then look at fossil fuels, explore solar and wind power, examine hydro, geothermal, and biomass, and finally, dive into energy storage before wrapping up with a quick knowledge check.
All right, Section 1, the science of energy. Let's get into the basics.
So when we talk about energy, we have to start with primary energy. This is the raw, unconverted power you find in a lump of coal, flowing water, or the wind. But, we can't use it perfectly. The laws of thermodynamics dictate our limits here. The first law tells us energy is conserved. It's never created or destroyed, just transformed. But the second law? That introduces a critical limit. Whenever we transform energy, like burning fuel to create heat, a massive percentage is inherently lost in the process. It's literally like paying a universal energy tax. Because of this, thermodynamic efficiency is everything.
Ultimately, almost all the energy we use traces its origin back to the sun. But the key difference is time. Non-renewable energy, like coal, oil, and gas, represents ancient solar energy. It was locked away and stored over millions of years. Once we burn it, it's gone for good. Renewable energy, on the other hand, is tapped directly and replenished quickly. We're talking about sunlight hitting a panel today, wind blowing tomorrow, or biomass that grew just this season.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds: fossil fuels and the challenges of mitigation.
Historically, human society shifted from the firewood era to the coal era, and eventually right into oil. Now, because burning these fuels releases stored carbon dioxide, one proposed engineering solution is carbon capture and storage, or CCS. This is literally capturing emitted carbon dioxide and pumping it back underground. But we have to look objectively at the rigorous challenges this presents. Right now, CCS makes coal-fired electricity more expensive than wind power, and there are real risks of underground leaks. But here's the biggest hurdle. Powering the CCS capture process itself requires up to 30% more coal to be mined and burned, and because of that extra coal, emissions of acid rain-causing gases actually increase. It's a hugely complex technological hurdle.
Moving right along to Section 3, solar and wind power. This is where we start tapping into the elements.
If fossil fuels represent the energy capital of the past, solar and wind represent the daily income of the new energy era. And to grasp the potential here, consider this mind-blowing number: 180,000 terawatts. That is the sheer amount of solar energy hitting the Earth at any given time. To put that scale into perspective, the Earth receives roughly 14,000 times the world's average energy use. In just 40 minutes, enough sunlight hits our planet to power all of human civilization for an entire year. No way, right? But it's true. Of course, the challenge is capturing all that potential efficiently. What you typically see is a photovoltaic, or PV system on a roof. These use commercial solar cells, mostly made from silicon, to capture sunlight and directly convert it into an electric current. Right now, commercial silicon cells operate at about a 10 to 20% efficiency rate. Let's break down the actual physics of how that works. A solar PV cell relies on a treated slice of silicon. When a particle of light, called a photon, strikes that silicon, the impact knocks an electron loose. Think of it like playing billiards. The photon breaks the rack. Those freed, flowing electrons become the electric current. Interestingly, standard silicon has a theoretical maximum efficiency limit of exactly 31% due to its electronic properties.
To bypass this, engineers are actively experimenting with new materials, like lead-selenium nanocrystals, aiming to push efficiency much, much higher in the future.
The other major element we tap into is wind, which, fun fact, is actually driven by atmospheric circulation heated by the sun. Wind turbines are a highly proven technology experiencing rapid growth. The costs have fallen so much that they now compete directly with fossil fuels. But, impartially speaking, we've got to acknowledge the limitations. Wind farms face concerns over visual amenity, which is pushing a lot of developers offshore, and they suffer from high intermittency. Simply put, there are periods where there is absolutely zero wind generation.
So how you handle that intermittency? Let's look at a really cool real-world case study, Fair Isle. It's an isolated 70-person island in Scotland, and they rely on wind turbines for over 90% of their electricity. How do they pull that off? Through incredibly smart demand matching. When the wind is blowing hard, electronic controls automatically route the excess power to heat water, greenhouses, and even a local swimming pool. They match the electric load to the precise availability of the wind.
Okay, Section 4. Hydro, geothermal, and biomass. These are the Earth's alternative engines. Let's look at the other primary sources rounding out the sustainable energy mix. Hydropower relies on the evaporation and precipitation of the solar-driven water cycle. It's incredibly effective, but scientists warn it's increasingly vulnerable to climate risks, specifically the retreat of glaciers, which disrupts that crucial water flow. Now, shifting from water to the heat right beneath our feet. Geothermal energy taps directly into the Earth's crustal heat. This is a super exciting space right now because recent engineering advancements have caused geothermal drilling times to fall by an incredible 80%. That is a game changer for unlocking firm, clean power.
Then we have biomass. This is energy derived from living material, think traditional firewood, but heavily modernized. Plants turn sunlight into energy via photosynthesis with about a 1% efficiency. Today we use biomass not just for raw heat, but to generate electricity or produce liquid and gaseous biofuels. Currently, expanding this on a massive scale is somewhat limited by the cost differential when you compare it to cheaper traditional fossil fuels.
Which brings us to the big question. What do we do when the sun goes down or the air is still? Section 5. Energy storage and the Great Transition.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we use elegant chemistry to store that intermittent power. Here, we're looking at a hydrogen-oxygen fuel cell. It converts chemical energy directly into electricity without burning a single thing. Hydrogen is supplied to one side, where it dissociates into hydrogen ions and electrons. The electrons flow through an external circuit providing power and then combine with oxygen. And the only byproduct of this entire electricity-generating process, pure water.
And here is how we tie it all together into one incredible loop to solve the storage problem. Through a process called solar electrolysis, a solar panel array captures sunlight and sends electricity to an electrolyzer. This machine splits ordinary water into oxygen and hydrogen gas. We can then store that hydrogen indefinitely, pipe it wherever it's needed, and feed it right into the fuel cell we just looked at. It is a brilliant feat of engineering that mimics plant photosynthesis. We're creating a storable chemical fuel from nothing but pure sunlight and water.
This process is at the very heart of the global energy transition, sometimes called the Energiewende. At a macro level, human society is shifting away from solid and liquid carbon fuels, like coal and oil, and moving toward gaseous and ionic forms of energy, like hydrogen gas and vast electricity networks. A great real-world example of this is Iceland. They are actively pushing to create a hydrogen-powered, fossil-free economy by 2040, utilizing their massive geothermal and hydro resources to produce all that hydrogen.
So the crucial point is, we need to review all these amazing concepts. Section 6. Summary and knowledge check.
Let's finish up with a quick knowledge check to really solidify what we've covered today. Here's your first question. What limits the theoretical maximum efficiency of standard silicon solar cells? Think back to our discussion on the PV mechanism and the billiards analogy. Got it? The answer is the specific electronic properties of the silicon material itself, which creates a hard physical limit of exactly 31%. And that is exactly why scientists are exploring nanotechnologies to push right past that barrier.
Okay, for our final question, why is energy from wind considered intermittent? And what does this mean for our future energy grid? Well, wind is intermittent simply because there are periods where the wind doesn't blow at all, resulting in zero power generation. This unpredictability means that for a sustainable grid to function, we absolutely must master large-scale storage technologies, like those hydrogen fuel cells, to capture energy when it's plentiful and release it when the air is still.
Which leaves us with one final massive question for you to ponder. As these technologies rapidly evolve, how long will it take for your own city to transition fully to living on Earth's daily income? Keep exploring and keep learning.